Hey, good afternoon, folks. Todd.LIVE here on live video. We are streaming to two places today, not three. I have YouTube and Facebook Live going. Welcome on either if you're watching in replay, of course. Periscope was supposed to come online. It's not cooperating with me, and I am not going to spend 10 minutes trying to figure that out. Periscope is expendable these days, folks. If I can make it work the first time around, I'm there. But if I can't, oh well, too bad. We're going to let it go this time. So YouTube and Facebook Live, I do have it set up so that if you leave a comment here live, Rachel and I can respond. Of course, if you watch this in replay, please leave comments. I will come back. Rachel will come back, particularly if you tag us and we're notified that you left a comment. We will come back and answer any questions you have, comment, socialize, whatever's on your mind. We want to hear from you. So this is, folks, a live video bycast, I guess it is, of my podcast, Entrepreneur Live Video. And I need to get that podcast started. Folks, if you want to catch this in replay on my podcast, my Entrepreneur Live videos are booked way ahead. So this is actually going to drop in late May or June on the podcast. But of course, you can enjoy it on YouTube and Facebook in replay mode anytime you want. So let me play some music. Let me do a little countdown, get the podcast going and recording. And I will bring Rachel in, and we're going to have a lot of fun because Rachel is, she is live video. She is fabulous, and I can't wait to catch up. It's been a while. So let me get the podcast going, and we will start the show, folks. 3, 2, 1. Hey, folks, welcome to Entrepreneur Live Video. Today is, of course, interview day, and I have my good friend Rachel Moore of Really Social on, and let's play some music and bring her in.
You are listening to Entrepreneur Live Video with Todd.LIVE, broadcasting from sunny Southern California. This is a place where the most talented online live video personalities and marketers share what works for them as live video becomes the most effective megaphone to the world man has ever known. Without further ado, here is your host, Todd.LIVE.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Entrepreneur Live Video. Of course, Wednesdays are interview days, and this is an interview that was recorded with my friend Rachel Moore of Really Social, and we recorded this on April 24th. Of course, you're listening to this a month to a month and a half later. Sorry about that, folks. We would love to have you when I go live. We go live on Facebook, YouTube. Today, we would be going live on Periscope. We had a little glitch. When I went live, it didn't take, and we're not going to fuss with it. We're going to roll right on through with YouTube and Facebook because those are the two platforms, if you're in live video, you want to be on for sure. Periscope's kind of a, it's kind of an afterthought. If you can do it, you do it. If you can't, you can't. On the screen right now, folks, I have my friend Rachel Moore. She's out of Denver. How you doing, Rachel?
I'm doing well. I got to say, you have quite an awesome presentation here. I am just impressed. It's so great to be on with a professional like yourself. So I really appreciate you having me on today.
What a nice compliment, because I consider you one of the best out there. Thank you so much for making my day. In addition to you being here making my day, that compliment just means the world to me. Folks, I interviewed Rachel for the first time on the Divorce the Workforce podcast almost 2 years ago. Rachel was live streaming before I was. She's been part of the cast or even producer of many shows. She is a big name at BeLive. If you're doing Facebook, BeLive is a fantastic service that allows people to broadcast on Facebook very easily. I don't take the easy route myself, but BeLive makes it easy for people starting out in particular and people just wanting to put on their A game on Facebook without a lot of work, and Rachel is a key component in the BeLive community. Rachel, so what have I left out here? Is there anything that you'd like to add? I mean, I like to do brief intro and then kind of dig right in, but is there anything starting out here you'd like to throw in about what you've been up to lately?
Sure. Well, I love that you brought up Divorce the Workforce. The workforce and I actually got remarried. We reconciled. So I have a lot going on. So a lot of you out there might be people who, yes, you're entrepreneurs. That is an incredibly busy lifestyle. That is you eat, sleep, breathe it all day long, even sometimes into the night. I did remarry the workforce. I'm actually back at a full-time job where I do digital marketing, which is fantastic. And honestly, live streaming has really led to a lot of skills that I'm able to translate into my job. You guys, brands and companies out there seems like they're finally starting to awaken to the fact that live streaming has some really good value. And so when you have those skills, they're really integral to that. So that's been great. And yeah, I've still been doing some of my side, what I guess you could term hustle, although that term, in my opinion, is overused and doesn't quite it's almost like the word cold doesn't really get how a cold affects you. Hustle doesn't really encapsulate what all that work, that side work goes into. But I've been doing that stuff too. So you talked about BeLive. I have a family podcast I do with my husband and 2 kids. And then also some stuff where I'm trying to do a show about women in charge called Concealer Chronicles and all of the other stuff. So a lot of things going on, as you can imagine.
So I think that's awesome. And you've always stayed busy. And I think that's fabulous. And you're right. You learn a lot of great skills doing the live streaming. We were talking briefly, folks. Rachel and I were talking when we were testing our connection about when you become a live streamer, whatever it is that you're promoting, a cause or a brand or a business, or you're just trying to build a community to have fun and have something to do, whatever the reason is, doesn't matter. When you become a live streamer, you become a lot of things. You become a digital marketer, you become an Instagrammer, a Facebooker, a YouTuber. It's not just one thing. And Rachel knows firsthand, and it sounds like these skills have put her where she is today.
Yeah, we were just talking about this actually on BeLive yesterday. Owen Hemseth, he's another host on BeLive, and he had a few of us other BeLive hosts on his show. And we were talking about all the things that go into a show, how, you might get inspired and see a live stream and say, I want to do a show. That's great. But as soon as you start doing it, and Todd, you know this firsthand, it's not just about hitting start and record, and live streaming. You start getting into this where, I need to produce this. I need to promote this. I need to do things on the back end of it and repurpose the video I just recorded and live streamed. If I want a guest, I got to schedule that ahead of time. So you become a producer. You become all of that stuff. You become a producer, a marketer, a communicator, an interviewer. So all of those things go around live streaming. So yeah, it makes sense to try to find those tools. As you mentioned, I really like BeLive and do some live streams for them, where it just kind of takes some of the workload off of your shoulders. But you become all of those things. So it's a lot to do, but man, those are invaluable skills to have, particularly as you continue to hone them as you get your live streaming going.
So, looking back, when did you first do a live stream, and what platform was it on? Let's just start at the beginning here.
Well, for those of you watching or listening, even if it's during the podcast or the replay, you might cry a little bit at this word. There was this platform called Blab. I've heard people say it's the platform that shall not be named because it really left behind some kind of nostalgic feelings about how so many people, they kind of came together in that platform. Now, this was not before Periscope or anything. Periscope and Meerkat were out there. This was, though, before Facebook Live. And Blab was this platform where, as long as you had a Twitter handle, you could sign in and hop into a streaming seat of a show, and you could bring people in, drop them off. You had up to 4 seats, but you also had the sidebar chat. It just opened this whole new medium, and it was fantastic. That's where I met you. That's where I met Ross Brand. I met several people, Madeline Sklar. I was using that as a side live stream to her Twitter chat. So I met a ton of people there, and I actually had a show I was doing called Laugh and Learn with Really Social, where we learned about different platforms and things, and that kind of evolved into the YouTube channel I have, where I just do quick how-to tutorials. So that was when I first started, and honestly, guys, I was live streaming because of I need to promote my business. It seems to be what people are doing, and I am all about testing out new mediums and new channels. Let me hop in. And before you knew it, I was off. And if you told me back then, Rachel, you're going to do a lot of live streaming in the future, at least once a week, I would have been like, well, I don't believe you, but okay. But here we are. So it definitely took over.
Yeah, it's an incredible thing. I want to reach out. We have Lee Gavin and Brad Friedman both said hello on Facebook. I don't know if they're still with us or not. We've got a number of viewers on YouTube. Feel free to leave a comment. Let us know you're with us. We can't see your names if you don't type something in the comment box, and we love to do shout outs. So you started with Blab. I only, quite honestly, I think I met you after Blab, though. I only did one Blab. I watched a lot. But I did one. Joel Comm did a night, and it was like 10 o'clock at night, and I was laying on the couch watching a movie, and he did a thing where he's just like, whoever wants to come in right now, just come in, and we're going to bring you in and talk. And I went and did it, and it was life changing, right? And I didn't even talk as much. Like some of his other guests, he already knew them, and they did a lot of the talking, but it changed me, and I started studying Blab, and by the time I got like where I was ready to do a Blab show, the lights went out on Blab.
Yep.
It was like, boom. And it's like 4 months of thinking about this. And this is one of those things where maybe not 4 months, maybe it was 4 weeks. But it was a while. Like I had charted out and I was going to do this whole thing, and you can't wait, folks. You got to get on. That's the lesson from that little story. But Blab, I mean, I wish I had become more of the community and gotten on earlier, because it really set the stage for where we are now with all these different platforms. It gave people the ability and the kind of the bravado to take on everything else that came along, and they did. And we've got a lot, like you said, all of the people that you named. Ross is one of my good friends that came right from that crew. So after Blab, you know, what did you do? I mean, obviously you were on YouTube a little bit, and, you know.
Yeah. Well, and Blab, honestly, I think we wouldn't have some of the live stream platforms and coding platforms we have today had Blab not happened, because it really created this whole, sure, you can go live solo. Sure, you can go live with one guest. That's totally great. But it led into this whole, well, could we get more than a group, you know, a community? I think Blab really set up live streaming as a community. And it was like any other channel where, you know, Facebook evolved into where you've got, I mean, that's honestly the biggest community on the planet, probably, when you come to like social stuff. But Twitter, same thing. You know, each of these channels has their own communities that are inherently theirs. And live streaming really developed its own community there too, where it's like, there's no other medium or channel like this, and this is where we gathered. And so there was always, after Blab gave us the worst Dear John letter ever on Medium, by the way. And you can still find that, I think. But basically saying, we're breaking up with you guys. You're not worth it. We're out of here. And we're like, oh, okay. But it really, the broadcasting community for live streamers was still there. And we were hungry for something, a way to get together. And how can we still all talk to each other and do things? So you had encoding things like Wirecast became big at that point. OBS, you know, just ways to bring people into the same space. Be Live evolved from that, where they were like, you know, let's make it so you can bring more than one person easily onto Facebook Live broadcast. So you get a ton of different things. And my goodness, I don't know that we would have things like the Never Settle show with Mario Armstrong had live streaming not gotten such a foothold at that time. And I still remember the days where people would say, live streaming, what is that? What are you talking about? Is that a live video? We're like, yes, it's a live social video. It's on social media. And it was just neat to do all that. But after Blab left, I think I kind of just still was doing my thing. I did do some Periscopes. I would trying to toy around with Facebook Live. But I really didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, where could I do a show where it could live and stuff? So also, this gets a little bit into the tools you have. I'm an Android girl. Okay. So as a result, I don't often get the apps and the features that roll out as soon as they do on iOS and Apple products. So I had to wait about 8 weeks for Facebook Live, and everybody else was using it. And I'm just like, oh my God, I can't wait. But as soon as Facebook Live hit, I'm like, okay, this is probably going to be the next thing, just because you're talking the largest social media channel on the planet added live streaming. And that was just a no-brainer. So I think that's where I went. And actually, I started teaching courses on live streaming on Facebook Live at a local little, educational place here. So that's kind of where I went. And I always knew I just wanted to keep a foothold in live streaming. So I've always intentionally done that, no matter what I've been doing or been up to. I'm like, I got to keep my skills sharp in that medium. And that's because I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's a long haul for this particular method of communicating with people.
Yeah, I agree. I have to say, though, on the Android gets it second. I think the progression of things is Apple users get things first, and then Android users get it, and then Canadians get it. Because I have a huge group of Canadian friends, and they always seem to be a couple months behind on the latest updates for whatever reason. Why that has to be some sort of a divide, is beyond me. But anyway, they do get it last. Well, they probably get it before other parts of the world. So fast forward to today, you're doing the BeLive with Ross Brand, and I've caught a couple of the shows, but I have to admit, I am not a huge consumer of live streaming content. I've gotten to a point in my life where I'm so busy that, you know, a lot of the times I check in for 5 minutes on a broadcast and have to check out. And it's kind of like keeping up with what other people are doing, you know, quick in and outs. So what have you got going on with Ross these days at BeLive? Because it drives a lot of views and a lot of interest.
So BeLive has been great. I had a show with BeLive that I pitched to them. I had a Business Unusual. That was one of the live streaming shows I was doing via Facebook Live. And I was actually using BeLive for it because it was a great way to have a guest on. And I had pitched to BeLive saying, hey, I'm doing this show. I don't know if you guys have if you plan to do any branded, you know, or shows that you're a host from your Facebook page. I would love to be part of that. And this again drives to where BeLive, I think they're still to this day one of the only encoding platforms out there that really cares about the broadcaster. They're not just out to make a buck to say, we just want your subscription dollars and then you're on your own. They're very helpful. They've from the moment that they started that platform been asking us, what do you want? What would you like? What features would help you with your broadcasting? And so they were great. They were like, yes, you know, let's add that show to our weekly lineup. And that show worked for a while, but it never really kind of hit its stride with the audience that BeLive had and what the show was. So we transitioned and pivoted out of that. And I was coming up with a new show idea for them. And I'm like, well, one thing, they don't have a co-hosted show yet. And at that time they didn't. And I said, if there was one person I could pick to, and hopefully he's watching this or listening later, if there's one person I could pick to co-host a show with, it's Ross Brand. He and I have always just really gelled on air. We love talking offline too. He's smart. He's got such great broadcasting ability from his radio days. He's great at hosting. He asks awesome questions. And I've always tried to up my interview game as well. And I was like, man, if we can get both of us on screen together. And what BeLive wanted to do was really feature and showcase the people using their platform, saying, look, this is why BeLive's so awesome, because our broadcasters are awesome. So I said, let's do a show where we feature and pretty much kind of promote the users of BeLive. So we have a show called Best of BeLive with Ross and Rachel. And for those of you who are friends, fans from the back in the day, you might recognize the Ross and Rachel thing. But so basically what we do is bring on at least one BeLive show each week. And it might be someone that's obscure that nobody's heard of, or it might be someone who's just got tens of thousands of fans on their page, but they were not in our radar, right? And so we'll bring them on the show and talk about how they're using BeLive. We've talked to crafts people, people who are shopping Hobby Lobby, every month of the year. We've talked to race car people. We've talked to businesses, coaches, social media experts. We talked to John Tesh one time where he came on. He's got a podcast and he uses BeLive. So, and then radio DJs who are translating, their radio show, but they're also doing a live, which is amazing. So that's what we do. We feature all these different broadcasters, and it's amazing. We learn something new every week, and we're hoping that our viewers do the same, where they're inspired to say, shoot, if that person built this and is able to use BeLive to create a show, create a community, and accomplish their goals, I can do that too. So that's what our show is all about. We're on every week, Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, for an hour. And we're on this evening, talking to Madeline Sklar as our guest for tonight. So that's our show on BeLive, and it's awesome.
That's awesome. I have a question for you, and you may or may not know this, and you may know it, and it's not something that you're able to talk about. I don't know, but do you have any idea how many users BeLive has right now?
I do not. I know that they have. I probably could find that out, but it's growing all the time. I know their Facebook page has over 16,000 likes now, and they have a really cool community, a Facebook group called BeLivers. And that one grows a lot too, where people tend to, whether they want to learn how to use the platform or if they want to use it, like if they want to test it out, or if they're already using it saying, cool, tell me all the things I need to know. I don't know how many subscribers they have, but I got to tell you, I am seeing so many people from the community I knew from Blab. Seems like all of them are using BeLive because it's just so stinking easy to bring someone on. It's a link,
right?
And then they're on. There's no signing in or sign up for an account, download this. You don't have to do any of that. You just basically go on and you're there. It's so easy.
Yeah, I have to admit, in a lot, I like doing my own thing because I like going to other platforms, and I think BeLive, unless I'm mistaken, is strictly Facebook right now. That'll
Correct.
probably change in the. Any idea if that's going to change in the future?
I would love it if it would change. I would love it if they'd expand out. I don't know what their intentions are with that. I think they're really focused on honing what features are available for Facebook Live right now. But I mean, I really like that you are not married to a particular platform, as we've seen with things like Snapchat, or remember when Vine went away,
yep.
Or Blab. If you ever just wholly marry yourself to one platform, even if it's a juggernaut like Facebook, I think you just do kind of pigeonhole yourself, and that's rented space, that's rented land, where you're like, I'm using this to get my message out. But shoot, if Mark Zuckerberg decides tomorrow, he's like, I'm done with all this data scandal. I'm done with all this stuff. I'm just going to shut down the platform. Bye. I'm going to go retire.
Yeah.
He could totally do that. And so it's always a smart idea to broaden yourself out to at least one or two other platforms where you're like, I still have a toe over here and a hand over here. That way you're just covering your bases and making sure that everything doesn't go poof one day,
I'm completely with you. The one thing that's always in the back of my head, and I do want to shout out to Larry Snow. He's watching us over on YouTube, and he commented in the box, "How you doing, Larry? Thanks for being with us." The one thing is the community. By me not doing BeLive, and I think I did one or two BeLives way back in the day when everybody was totally free for everybody, and it was very basic. I mean, they were just getting started, and it was I think they gave it away for free for a really long time, which I thought was very generous. And they, like you said, they focused on community. They kind of are like Archon Mounts and Aaron over at Archon, where they really listen to the community. They focus on giving you better tools, more tools, options, and all that. And they promote, like your show promotes people in their community, and in turn, so rather indirectly or directly, I guess I can argue it both ways, being the recovering attorney that I am, but they are getting promoted by virtue of promoting all the people in their community and showcasing and having you and Ross showcase certain talents and talk about what it is. So, I mean, it's a great thing. And people in the live stream, in this venue, Archon, BeLive, I don't know if there's really any others that I know of. I mean, Telestream and Livestream, they're there, but I don't see them as prevalent as BeLive and Archon.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, and again, I don't speak completely with knowledge about this, but I know Twitch is quite the targeted community as far as like video game, fans and people who play video games all the time, but also they have that, Twitch create channels and stuff. I guess that would probably be the only other thing that I would think about would have that kind of really rigorous targeted community. And I know Facebook's a little nervous about Twitch because they've made some moves recently where they're trying to do their own game sharing platform, and because they're trying to compete with that. Yeah. So,
Actually, I've had Carlos Phoenix was on the other day watching one of my shows, and he mentioned Twitch over and over again when we were talking about places you needed to be. And when I go to Twitch, I know they have some creator area. They've had that area for a long time, but I either can't find it or there's hardly anything there, which means opportunity for those of us who are doing it. But I just can't figure it out. Have you played with Twitch any yourself?
Very little bit. So I do have a Twitch user channel. I think it's Lady Disdain. See, this is terrible. I don't even remember it. Lady Disdain TVS. TV is in Vampire Slayer. I mix up my fan things, but I've gone and broadcast some games live there once. I mean, I don't have time to play video games anymore, which is also really sad. But I have done stuff on there, and I know people who are consistent, and this gets back to live streaming. Consistency is key. Where they just are there. They're all on a consistent basis playing games. They build a community who likes to watch them play the games. Usually it's because they have a camera on themselves too, and they're freaking out about it. I will say that my two children are big into they're watching content on YouTube that is video gameplay, but it was generated on Twitch. And you can broadcast right from a game console to either Twitch or YouTube and things like that. So there's absolutely an audience there. And again, a very it's a microcosm, which I shouldn't even say micro, it's a lot of people, but they are there for one purpose, to watch and be entertained by video game play. So, and again, as you mentioned, the creative aspect of it, I can't find it either. Honestly, I think if I delved more into it, I would probably know way more. But it's definitely something to keep on your radar. There's always going to be that sector that even if you're not in it, other people are, and they're really invested in it. And so if your content matches that format or that channel, go forth,
Right.
So.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned that your kids watch Twitch content on YouTube. Even people that are even teenagers playing games with millions of followers on Twitch still have to figure out social media and live and repurposing and getting it on other platforms in order to grow their tribe. I mean, it doesn't just stop with the one channel, no matter what you're doing. We've got MT Box Development. Michelle, she joined us. I think she's in New York. Welcome. I'm glad you're with us on Facebook. Maybe the counters on Facebook and YouTube never seem to be accurate. Instagram as well. It'll say one, but then 3 different people comment. We also have some more commenting on YouTube. Let's see. Larry says Rent Atlanta is okay in his. Let's see. I can't read the whole comment. Rent Atlanta is okay in his book, especially when the reach is in the millions. I agree with that. I mean, if you've gotten to that point, I think a lot of us would like to be there. Any new BeLive or Rachel Moore shows in the works? We kind of covered that, and you're welcome to expand on that in just a minute. Let me just see what these other comments say. Twitch is overcomplicated to set up, especially comparing to BeLive or Ecamm. I agree with that. I tried to set up Twitch, and I do have Todd.LIVE at Twitch, but or it's Todd.LIVE. I might not have been able to use the period, but it was hard to figure it out. The game streaming, somebody's wondering if the game streaming isn't a self-hyped fad. Twitch has opened the doors to creators, but 90% are gamers. So anyway, so Twitch is an option. Carlos is probably onto something. I don't disagree with him. I've actually been hearing, and even I think Roberto Blake was talking about Twitch 6 or 8 months ago, the creator section. But again, I mean, it's tough when there's no one there to put a lot. I mean, if you have an hour to put somewhere in a day, do you put it somewhere like Twitch because they're going to have people there in 6 months, or do you wait until the people start showing up and then get started? What are your thoughts on that, actually?
Well, you read the terrain. So I kind of have to laugh at the person who said, oh, it's all self-hype gaming. Well, there are hundreds of millions of ad dollars accompanying these Twitch and YouTube game players. So I don't think that's a blip. Those people are making money. They know that there's an audience with these younger people who in just a few years are going to be primary breadwinners and making all the purchases. So they're getting them young. That's not a blip. It might seem like self-hype. And listen, I'm not saying that you need to go start watching video games on YouTube or Twitch. I mean, you just mentioned consuming live streaming video. I don't have time for it. I don't even have time to make that kind of video because, like I mentioned, I'm doing other things. But people are watching that stuff, or they're listening to it, even if they're not watching it. And then ad dollars are being paid to that. So there's that. But I think Twitch, and actually I want to say Amazon has now actually dabbled onto Twitch, where I know Amazon obviously has bought Whole Foods, where, and Amazon's doing all these things. And it's really becoming a major player, not just for streaming, like competing with Netflix and stuff like that. But I think we're still going to see a day where live streaming shows that aren't necessarily like a Netflix series or something like that are going to be a main part of Amazon streaming service. And Amazon, I don't know what capacity it is, but I know I tried to get into Twitch the other day and it was like, oh, do you want to sign with your Amazon account? I'm like, tell me more about that. When did this happen? So I think anytime Amazon is paying attention to something, and it's just the same as like anytime Facebook pays attention to something, that's worthy of note to me. And I wanted to say one other thing.
Sure.
2 things, actually. One is, it's always a good idea, even if you have no intention of using a platform when you first hear about it, go get your user. Go get your user profile in there. Get your handle. Yep. You may never log into that again, but you just got your handle. You're good to go. And the other is, I've become, and I'm going to credit Phil Gerbishak with this, I've become a huge user of getting domains where I like, hey, if I have an idea, I'm going to go spend $10 a year to get that .com or .live and grab it. But if you can, go get yourself your name .live And then no matter what platform changes happen, you can redirect that domain to wherever you're broadcasting from. So you could redirect Rachel.live. I own that one. I could redirect that to my Periscope channel if I happen to be like, that's where I'm going now. I can redirect it to BeLive.tv's video page because that's where my BeLive shows are. I could redirect it to a Twitch channel or my YouTube channel, things like that. So it's always a good idea to grab something like that where it's a simple URL, and if people know they're going to follow it, they'll find you where you are, regardless of whatever platform you're on.
Yeah, you can kind of use your URL as like a link tree where it's, I mean, you could use Rachel .live, and I hate to think of what you paid for that. And you could have all your links, you know, here she is on Facebook, here's her new podcast with her family. And, you know, it could be like banners and just kind of like, it's a whole portfolio that's one page, and you just tell people Rachel.live, you'll find me there. Everywhere I exist is on that page.
Exactly.
And it's a great idea. I own Todd.LIVE, but I own two of them. I own TOD.LIVE and I own TODD.LIVE. And TOD.LIVE costs me much more on a yearly basis. They got smart with these .lives. They charge you this yearly thing. So I think they've got me on the hook for like $450 a year to own these two domains, but I couldn't let there be a second Todd.LIVE. And TOD is more popular than TODD on planet Earth. You know, it's anywhere but in America. That's how they spell it, is TOD. So I couldn't live with myself knowing that there would be a second Todd.LIVE. Now, someone could get cute and get TODDD, but I'm not going to plan for every contingency, folks. You're going to get me if you want to get me. We've covered, let's see, Blab. We've covered, I'm trying to think of where I wanted to go. I lost my train of thought by spending so much time on Twitch, but you know, maybe it's warranted because it's an up and comer, and we've seen this. We've seen these things go up and we've seen them come down. We had Meerkat, we've had Snapchat, which is still in play. This is a question I have for you during the podcast. And I just thought of this, and I think this is great for you because you've been doing this so long. And I always feel like I have to apologize when I loop Instagram stories and Snapchat in with live video, but I do. And I have my reasons for it. Would you lump it in with live video, or do you consider that completely not live video? Because it's not.
Are you talking just stories?
Yeah, just Instagram stories and Snapchat. Like when I teach live video on the podcast, a lot of my podcasts will be about creating Snapchat content or creating Instagram stories content. And I know it's technically not live.
Yeah, it's not really. I mean, I don't know that I would, but I totally get what you're saying, because you always kind of want to, it's like an asterisk. You're like, so there's live streaming. So yeah, it's a live. Let's just take that. There's Instagram live, and you can go live on that. But that is part of stories. You go live in Instagram through stories. Like you have to open that camera to go live. So I do think they're connected. Now, Snapchat, I don't know. I don't think they've made this change, and I could be speaking out of turn, but I don't believe Snapchat has it where you can legit like do a live broadcast. Like it's still a snippet. It's a story.
Right.
You know, you record or you snap a picture and then you share that. So they haven't hit that yet, but I do think it's worthy of mentioning because it's still fresh because of the 24-hour shelf life of it. So it's not live, but it's very in the moment. So and stories are a huge part. I mean, we've seen it where, you know, you've got Facebook has its camera for stories, Instagram has its camera for stories. Actually, if you have personal profile on Instagram as well as Facebook, you can send that out as the same story. And Snapchat now, I think where they're opening up the ability for you to link your Snapchat story to Facebook or Twitter or things like that.
I didn't know that.
I haven't gotten that yet, but yeah, that's supposed to be rolled out.
I know I just got notification that Group Live is now on Snapchat. So I think you have to go into your private messaging and you can start a group with other people. And then I think if you go live, then other people get notified and they can come in, and it could be, I think it's up to 10 people or something like that. And I haven't tried it yet. I just noticed it on my phone yesterday. It is kind of cool. What would be more cool is that it can be seen by other people instead of just the 8 that are in there.
Well, and that doesn't surprise me too much about Snapchat. I mean, it's always been a messaging platform. And I know once they went public, and it was like adding ads and all that stuff, which you're just going to get. But I still remember back when they opened analytics up on Snapchat. I remember pulling mine down one time, and I just had insanely more engagement on the private snaps, the conversations, than I did on the story that was getting shared out. So that doesn't necessarily surprise me that they're just keeping that isolated to groups. I mean, but you can do a lot with that. I mean, if you get, particularly brands, if you're totally speaking from a monetizing thing, if you have a targeted group in Snapchat and you want to go live with them to show them a how-to, or show them, hey, we're having this new product releasing, we want you guys to be the first to know about it. That's a fantastic way to do it, particularly if your audience is younger, a teen, young adult range and stuff like that. So it's just so interesting to me how all these platforms, right, how they do have their different communities. They know who their target is, but they're just a little different from each other. And maybe sometimes, you're like, I wish I could go full public live with this. And I'm like, well, not. You can't do that on this platform. We're going to restrict it here, and you've got to make use of that. And you're like, all right. And that's what social media marketers do. You're like, okay, give me the confines of the tool I'm going to use. Will this work with my strategy? So,
I have to say that talking to you today, you really know so much. I mean, I could probably talk to you if I had planned out, like if I thought of some other topics, because I think that what you're doing now in this, that you've remarried the workforce. What I'd like to hear is how has that changed you, having done all this live streaming, all of this broadcasting, and now you're back in the workforce, but you're putting these skills to task and learning some new skills. I mean, I just think that you really know what you're at a level that's way up here. I mean, I'm listening to this and the way you're talking about brands, and maybe that's because you're focusing on brands in your job, but I mean, what is this doing with the live streaming and going into the career? What is this doing for Rachel and your growth?
It's been cool. I mean, I will say too, most of my professional career has been working for a company or brands or stuff. It wasn't totally working for myself, but I've always had little things going on the side. And, if you haven't started yet, and this could be a message to young people, teenagers, I speak, but just briefly back on domains, I bought both of my kids their own domain because I know at some point that's going to matter to them. But you have your digital brand all the time that is you. So coming back to the workforce and bringing this stuff, honestly, when I first was interviewing for this position, and I mentioned, I'm like, I know how to live stream, I know how to podcast, and everybody just kind of perked up at the table like, oh, so you'd be comfortable like setting that? Yeah, I'm totally comfortable with that. I know how to make it work, know how to, kind of keep it risk free, because everybody's freaked out about the risk, around, live stream. What if it goes south? I mean, right now the mayor of Denver does a very routine live stream that he does, comments come in whatever they are. He just still goes live because the credibility of it is insane. So I think what I've brought from all this experience with doing my own business, but also particularly live streaming and stuff, I think I'm just a little more amenable to, maybe there's a better word for this, risk, of, putting your credibility on the line, and, and not every brand's going to do this, but saying, are you confident enough in your message and in being transparent that you're okay with doing this, with going live and letting people comment? And then there's the social media best practices. Say, okay, well, unless it's a racial slur or harassing comment or a threat or anything, leave that up. Let's address that. Let's let that be. So it's really trying to encourage that credibility and transparency. And thankfully, I feel like brands today, whether it's one I'm working for or other people, they're finally saying, okay, we need to be honest and we need to take that risk, because that's what people want. They are expecting us to show up and be who we are. And, if we mess up, we're going to own it. And if we don't mess up, great, but let's be there for real anyway. So I think if anything, that's been me trying to carry this into, corporate America or what have you, to say, you got to be honest. You might as well pack it up and go home. Your consumers are going to find somebody who's honest. There's going to be somebody else who's going to step up and fill that void if you're not willing to go there. So I think that's been the biggest thing I've been able to bring from live streaming and kind of put it into play here.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I think that even just, I'm telling people, I talk to people. I was at Social Media Marketing World. I talked to so many people about live video. In fact, it was really cool. Have you been to Social Media Marketing World yet?
I have not. I haven't been able to schedule-wise or budget-wise fit it in. So maybe
make it happen next year. It was such a valuable experience. Well, they have this one thing. They have a room where all the vendors are, and they have it's like a cafeteria where they have some prepared food and you can go and eat or whatever. But there's like a couple hundred tables, and every table is numbered. And so every table has a certain topic. So table number 73 might be Instagram. Table 74 might be Instagram stories. Table 75 might be, Facebook. And then the next one's Facebook Messenger. And so they had all these tables, and I kept going to the live video table. And I would often find myself being the only one there that had ever done a live stream, which was really cool because these non-live streamers who want to do it were coming to the table to kind of see what was what. And I got a few of them on their phones and had them go live. One girl, I was like, you need to go live right now. Just get your phone out of your pocketbook. And we're going live. And well, what am I going to talk about? And so I jumped through all the hoops with her, but, it's getting people that first button push. And, if you don't do it, this is going to your point where if you don't do it, somebody down the street's going to do it. It's the same thing with live video, just in general, that, if you own a pizza parlor, a coffee shop, or a barber shop, or whatever it is that you want to promote with a live video and kind of let people in, your hesitation to do that just means that every day it gets closer to someone down the street, your competitor doing it. And then where are you then? Get started now.
Well, and particularly for people who are, and everybody's concerned about Facebook and the Facebook algorithm. And if you have a Facebook page, we've gotten pushed down again, back burner again, because Zuckerberg has said it's all about personal connection, personal profiles, personal posts. Those are all going to get priority. Okay. Same thing we've always heard, but every time he says it, you're just like, okay, it's a reminder to us that this is harder for you if you have a page. Now, Facebook pages are great, but you do have to really put out good content. And honestly, going live on your Facebook page is still going to you know how Facebook gives you those reminders saying, this post is doing better than 90% of your other posts on your page. You're going to get that every darn time with that Facebook Live. Every single time. It's going to tell you that thing's doing better because it's live, and the replay value is ridiculous. So seriously, whether you are comfortable being on the camera yourself, or you just want to demonstrate, if you have something that you can show people, like, we have this product, here's how to use it. Here, take a look at our lobby where you will be greeted when you come in and visit our brick and mortar store. You don't necessarily have to have your face on it, but you could definitely show and tell. But again, just as you had mentioned with your table that you had at Social Media Marketing World, figure out what you're going to say, but try it. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? Yeah. Particularly if you've never done it and you go live, you're hardly going to get like 50,000 people come in who all hate you. Right. It's just really not going to likely happen. So unless you're a celebrity that people just generally don't like. So try it, give it, just if you realize you're like, this is not for me, figure out what else you could do. There's a myriad of other things you could do that, are inventive and would be that content and, and let you go live and get that bump through that algorithm and kind of pierce through that shield that we're all trying to get through.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Eileen Smith joined us on YouTube, and she says she said hello, and she's getting dinner started, but she's still listening. So I don't know how she found me on YouTube. She and I communicated with her a long time ago in Anchor, and I've watched some of her content, but I didn't realize that I had really popped up on her screen. But she's watching us on YouTube, which is a big feather in my cap because my YouTube is kind of a ghost town. And so that she has noticed some value there is important to me. I'm glad to have you with me today, along with the others as well. Hey, I wanted to close out with one more thing because I'm a live streamer and podcaster, I guess prolific on both counts. And I have a lot of viewpoints on the strengths and weaknesses of both platforms, and I think we could make a whole show about that. But I just wondered if, in a nutshell, you can tell me what your thoughts on as far as live streaming versus podcasting. Of course, I don't think it has to be a versus. You can do them both, right? But and I wanted you to tell the audience a little bit about your show, because I know that a new podcast needs listeners. And I think you can tease your show a little bit and share with the group. I mean, it's a family show, so I'm sure that it's going to be fantastic and entertaining for everyone in the family because you have small children, I think, right? Your children are.
I do.
Yeah.
They're 9 and 11. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's roughly they're not small anymore. Mine are 9 and 14. So I do call them small, even though they technically aren't. And I thought you were about the same stage as I am, and you are. But share with us thoughts, live streaming and podcasting, what the value differences may be in the two, and tease your show a little bit. Let us know what it's about.
Thank you. So I will say there are some commonalities. So whether you're live streaming or you're doing, no video podcast, audio is your absolute 100% most important factor. I've been learning that a lot through our podcast. I've been kind of working through microphones we're using, which room of the house are we recording in, how close are we sitting to the microphone, and then we're editing all that stuff later. When I say we, I mean me. My husband, I'm slowly training him how to edit too, because oh my God, it's a lot of work. But it's all about the audio, and can people hear you clearly? Is it good quality? And you guys, anyone can do both things too. Anyone can go do a live stream because it's free to do. You can go on Facebook Live, it's free. You can go live on Twitter, it's free. You can go live on Twitch, free with some effort. So you can do all that for free. You can also set up a podcast almost free, so fairly low cost. I think the only time you might have to spend something and seriously, you could record with your earbuds mic and, just record it into your computer and go run that. The only thing you might have to pay for is hosting the actual podcast files, because you never, word to the wise, never want to host those on your website. Your website will not move anymore. But they're both very low cost to do. So there's audio considerations and there's cost considerations. Now, I will say, God, I'm going to kind of defer to podcasting here, and here's why.
Podcasting is more significant than live streaming?
I think I feel like they both kind of go head to head with how popular or unpopular they can be. But I want to ask you this. So we can point back to your YouTube commenter who just a minute ago said she's listening. She's not watching.
Right.
She's listening. It's a lot easier to have something go on in the background because we're all ADD society. We're all multitasking. We're getting stuff done. And I do this at work. When I have a webinar that's on that I'm supposed to be watching, I'm totally listening to that until I hear something saying, ooh, I should go look now. Same thing happens with live streams. A lot of those times that you're getting views, it's actually somebody who just has it up in the background and they're listening. So that's why I said audio is more important. But podcasting, I think, I just feel like it's having its second moment, if you will. I remember back when podcasts were big, when iTunes first came out and people were actually, oh, there's a podcast. And it's almost like shoulder pads. They came back, after having a long hiatus, and now they're back and very popular, and anyone can do them. And you're getting so much amazing content. And you've also got people who are totally fine recording. But if you ask them to be on a camera, they're going to say, mm-mm. So I feel like podcasts are a little easier entry level, if I could say that. If you do live stream, you have a big bonus because you're willing to go on live video. You're willing to put yourself out there, whatever you look like or whatever you feel like. It's cool. I'm adding this visual. That's great. And as you can hear from what Todd said from his experience at a social media conference, which still kind of blows me away that you didn't have a ton of people at that table for live streaming, it's still not hugely tapped into because people have that hang up about live camera. But podcasting, that is a much easier bar of entry, if you ask me. And honestly, there's so much behind it. You can do so much with just audio, and you can be everywhere. You can be to all these platforms, whether you have it on a YouTube, you can put a podcast on YouTube, you can embed it on your website, you can be on iTunes, huge, Stitcher, Google Play, all these things.
Alexa,
I just feel like
Alexa,
oh my gosh, right? So
if you need help setting up your Alexa, you and I can get on a Skype call and I will walk you through it. It's 20 minutes.
Oh my God, I would totally love that. But yeah, I mean, you talk about that voice assistant stuff. That's not live stream. That's all that. So I feel like they're both very different. You can obviously multi-purpose too, where you do a live stream, pull the audio off and turn that into a podcast. Totally fine, as long as your audio is good. But I don't know. I got to say, I think you're talking absorption of people actually consuming the content. I think podcasts kind of beat out live streams, in my opinion. And that's only my opinion. I have no data behind that. But
yeah, I'm with you. And I want you to share your show coming up. But I wanted to reach out to Joe Roderick. He said video killed the radio star, but multitasking brought audio back. That's a great comment.
That is a great comment.
Very relevant. And I echo what you say about the podcasting. You know, people put in there, well, first of all, I do 2 daily podcasts, and I'm thinking about a third one, and I batch record and record way in advance and get ahead so that I have a buffer. But I was at Vid Summit in Los Angeles, Todd.LIVE's show, and Gary Vaynerchuk was the speaker last October, and he did a whole thing on podcasting. I mean, half of his 30 minutes on stage was about podcasting and how important it was. And he said, with all these Alexas, Amazon devices, Google devices, Motorola, I think, has a device. I mean, all these things are coming out. They're putting them in cars. They're putting them in everything that you imaginable. That he said, his quote was something along the lines of, podcasting is like showing up in California in the 1700s and staking a claim to all of Malibu before anyone else got here, and holding it until the people start showing up. And he said, even though it seems, you know, like a dense space with a lot of podcasters, he said, you haven't seen anything yet to what's coming. So he's like, get established, get your show going, start getting it out there. And I agree with you. I think doing the show with your family is huge. I want to get my kids going on podcasting. I've got a couple ideas for me and my daughter, a couple for me and my son. But when you can have, I mean, my Instagram podcast, I'm getting like 500 downloads a day, and I'm 4 months into it.
Right.
And it is daily. It's like 5 to 15 minutes, but 500 or so people are putting in earbuds and listening exclusively to me 15 minutes a day, or they're binging. I know a lot of people binge. But it's incredible. I haven't seen any of that with live video yet, not even close.
Well, and so to that point, go with what you know. I mean, what we did with our family podcast, it's called Unpause It. So it's all Unpause It, all one word. It's basically our nerdy family reviewing entertainment. So we've been reviewing the Avengers movies right up through to Infinity War, which is releasing this week. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to have the kids teach the parents what is Minecraft. What is, and talk about and all the video games. They are so excited about that. But it's been great because these are all things we've talked about in our house anyway. And for a while I was like, shoot, we need to why don't we just do a podcast? And my gosh, it's been such a huge fun thing for us to do. We do hit moments where someone's tired, because I'm dealing with young kids, or they're bored and they're so we're teaching them to take charge. Like, we let each of the kids have a turn leading the podcast for particular. If they like that movie more than the rest of us, they get to drive that podcast with a little guidance, but they're learning so much about, some confidence, about voicing their opinions, about hanging back if they don't have one. They're like, I don't like that movie, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10. So it's really been awesome to, not just from a podcasting standpoint, from a parenting standpoint. It's been really cool to watch the kids kind of develop that. And I'm hoping this is something that they'll remember the rest of their lives, saying, oh yeah, I totally talked into a microphone before. I was totally on a podcast before. I was telling people to follow us on iTunes. So it's Unpause It. We have a website, unpauseit.com, and we're on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, and on YouTube. And we're just digging it. And next thing up is I'm going to learn how to play Minecraft, apparently, and we're going to record that. It's going to be awesome. Well, and probably add some live video to that too, which will be hilarious.
If you want to, like I said, let's get you on Alexa. Alexa's been fabulous for me because so many people use the Alexa to listen to podcasts. The trick is you want them to be shorter if it's going to be on the Alexa, but we can talk about that another time. But I think it's wise what you're doing. I mean, I'm anti-college. I mean, I'm divorced the workforce, and I see colleges, writing a ticket to getting a job, and that's really all it is. I mean, you don't need college to be a digital creator at all. You learn this stuff by hitting the ground running and figuring it out. And I think what you're doing with your kids is fabulous. It's what I want to do because, if we can do what our parents did and tell our kids, okay, you got to get good grades in high school and go to college, and not teach them any of this stuff.
Right.
What's that good? I mean, the world has changed since you and I graduated from high school. And these things all came about after I was already 26 years old when I started getting AOL discs in the mail. And that was remember that in chat rooms, and it took you an hour to download a picture of Earth, and that was dazzling. That was the start of it, but the world has changed since then. And I'm trying to teach my kids differently. I do expect a good, putting my daughter in private school. I expect fantastic grades, but as soon as high school's out, I've told her, now you have the world in front of you to do whatever you want. I've told her, don't be scared to, not run with the herd straight into college. You've got all these skills that you've been learning, and hopefully by then I'll be podcasting with her and such. But I mean, we have a lot of opportunity as parents to teach our kids something totally different and allow our kids to be on the forefront of this, because almost every child out there is getting taught the old school way.
Well, and let's face it, my kids are way smarter than me at a lot of the tech in our house. Again, they know how to play Minecraft, but there have been times where they're like, "Oh, Mom, here's how you do this, that, and the other." And I'm like, "Oh my God, when did you learn that? How did you know how to do that?" My daughter's sending me Google slides of like things. She's like, "Here, I made this project." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I'm really excited too. She's coming with me, so I am presenting with Sprout Social. That's very exciting for me, anyway. So Government Social Media Conference, which I had no idea was a thing, but they're here in Denver this week, and I am presenting with Sprout Social. We're talking about data and social engagement, and it's Take Your Child to Work Day, and I'm bringing her with me. So I'm so excited that like they green lighted that. They're like, yes, bring her. So my daughter is going to see me be able to be on a panel talking about social media engagement, and then I'm taking her to my job, and we're going to let her work on stuff for us and she's so excited, be like, oh, I get to help Mom out. But that's the key, is just what you were saying. Teach your kids what you know. Yeah. They're probably going to get it. They're not so young that they can't get it. They're probably going to understand it and may even know it better than you, which is what you want.
You've got Social Media Denver coming up, and I know that you usually are quite involved in that. That's somewhere you need to take your kids, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, you guys think that your kids aren't using social media. Maybe they should start going to these conferences, and sitting on these panels and learning not only how best to use it, but what are some of the risks behind it too, and just teach them more than, I'd say, send them the information more than they probably can even absorb, because they're probably pretty able to absorb all that already, and better to prepare them than to just be like, I guess you'll learn on your own.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna, if I can get my kid if I can talk my wife into letting my daughter out of school next year, she's going to social media marketing world with me.
Nice. That'd be awesome.
Just to see it. Okay. I took her to VidCon, which is more like a YouTube fan show. It's lots of kids wanting to see the big names from YouTube, but she was dazzled by just the whole thing. And I think she could go to Vid Summit. She could go to, podcast movement. And I think that she would, any of these things. And I think that she would, the volumes of material she'd learn, and just being exposed to people who are doing something outside the box, I think is a really cool thing.
Agreed.
So, hey, listen, thank you so much for taking the time out to be on Entrepreneur Live Video today. It's been so long since we talked, and it's just good to know you're out there doing your thing and you're doing well. And I just love that you're working with Ross. I mean, he's a mutual friend, and love Ross. And the things that you said about Ross earlier today, I echo all those sentiments. He's just fabulous at what he does. And I can't think of anybody better with the amount of time that you're able to put into live video and that niche, that you get to do it with Ross Brand of all the people out there. It's just fabulous that you all are doing what you're doing.
Well, thank you so much. And seriously, I really appreciate the opportunity. You're doing amazing things. I see all the people you're interviewing, and I see what you're doing, and you really are just raising the bar for all of us. And that's important. So I just really appreciate the opportunity to be able to sit down and chat with you again about the workforce and entrepreneurship and social media and all those awesome geeky things.
Yes, I agree completely. And I want to say goodbye to all the friends over at YouTube. We've got Joe Roderick. He's still commenting. Joe, I'll come back in and comment after the show on your comments. Larry Snow, Eileen Smith. We had Brad Friedman, Lee Gavin, David Nikondu. I don't know. David, welcome. I haven't seen your name pop up before, but welcome. And thanks again, everybody. If you're listening on the podcast, if you want to hear these live, you can catch it on Facebook and YouTube, and sometimes Periscope when it works out. Thanks again, Rachel, for being here.
Thank you so much, Todd. Have a great afternoon.
You as well.
Thanks so much for listening to Grammar School with Todd.LIVE. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit www.todd.live and instagram.com/Todd.live. You can get regular live show and tell bonus tutorials at my Grammar School Facebook page, facebook.com/Grammar Students. If you enjoyed today's episode, please